Hey guys, welcome back to my channel today. Hey, I'm glad to have you guys on my channel. If you are a new subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you once again. I really do appreciate your presence on my channel today. And guys, so please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, which is very important. Guys, smash that subscribe button down below, like this video, share this video, leave a comment down below, just engage in this video, guys. I really need all of your support at this point. So guys, today this topic we're about to talk about is very important. I'm sure you can tell by the thumbnail already, but first let me introduce myself. My name is Onyeka. If you are a new subscriber, please be sure to check out my previous videos, as I'm sure that you'll find something worth interesting. Yeah, so let's jump right into today's video, guys. So in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to something I came across online a few days ago, and I was like, this is what I do, so why not just share it for my viewers and for also new people who will stumble upon this video. So I'm going to be reacting to the news of the Canadian government putting a cap on the number of international students coming to Canada. Guys, that's a pretty serious and important news. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this one, but yeah. And by the way, this is my very first reaction video. I don't know how this is going to do, but yeah, I hope it does well. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section, because I want to try reacting to these videos just to share my opinion and to hear from you guys and what you guys think. Let's just have an open conversation in the comment section, okay? I'm just going to give a brief disclaimer. Everything that I'm saying here, everything that I say on my channel, everything is based off of my knowledge and my research, okay? I'm not creating new knowledge. Everything that I know that I say, it can be found online. So I'm also not a registered immigration consultant. This is according to CBC News. By the way, I'm going to leave a link to this news in my description box if you guys want to read further. So I also try to share my screen and play the audio at the same time. The headline says the integrity of immigration system is at risk as international student numbers balloons, the minister says. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about that topic as well, but embedded within this topic is the fact that they are considering putting a cap on the number of international students to ease housing pressure, says Fraser. So Sean Fraser is the Minister of Housing in Canada. That's very, I don't know use the word, but yeah. He talks about how the number of international students that have come to Canada this year alone, and mind you, so up to 900 international students have come to Canada this year, and which is like the highest ever. And with that number, it's putting a lot of pressure on the housing system. Mark Miller, which is Canada's immigration minister, also talked about this as well.
School's back. Well, almost. Students are trickling back into Canada's universities and colleges, many after spending weeks or even months hunting for accommodation they can afford to live in. And this year we'll almost certainly see a record number of international students come to Canada, 800,000 so far. It's a topic that's made its way to the top of the political agenda this week. The Liberal cabinet met in PEI to talk about the housing shortage. The new housing minister, Sean Fraser, suggested that this huge annual influx of people on international student visas is one of the causes.
We've seen an explosion in the number of institutions who are actually taking students and rapidly growing far faster than they're able to accommodate. What we've seen recently is there's been such rapid growth, given that the program is typically uncapped, that certain communities are having difficulties managing with the population growth that it's attracted.
Mike Moffat is an economist who was at the cabinet retreat advising the government on housing policy. He says he's seen the change in his own childhood neighborhood in London, Ontario.
When I grew up there, every house had young kids in it. Every house had families. Now that neighborhood is getting turned into a sea of student rentals. So what this rental crisis is causing is bleeding into an ownership crisis. It's that the 2023 version of my parents in 1970 can't buy those homes because what they're competing against, very clear about this. None of that is to blame international students. It's not the responsibility of international students to ensure that there's enough housing in London, Ontario. This is a systemic failure, I would say, of both the federal and provincial governments and as well the higher education sector in which I work, to ensure that there's enough housing for both domestic and international students. And domestic and international students are the biggest victims of this, not the cause of it.
Okay, so I'm just going to put a pause to it right there and just debrief on that. So yeah, you heard from the horse's mouth, and that was one of the ministers talking. Yeah, international students are not exactly to blame, but because of the high flow of international students coming to Canada, it's putting a pressure on the housing market. So a lot of people are buying homes and turning them to student housing, thereby competing with people who want to buy like regular homes for like just to live in. If you listen further ahead, I know they talked about how educational institutions need to create more student housing just to ease the pressure on, you know, community housing as well. Like when I came to Canada 5 years ago, I recall how hard it was for me to get a house. Like if you are not an immigrant, you might not really understand this process. Like if you were born in Canada, you don't know what God has done for you. It's such a hard, how do I explain it? Like coming to a new country for the first time, it doesn't have to be Canada. This can be in the UK. I believe the UK is experiencing something similar to this right now. So what I'm trying to say is trying to get a house as an international student, it is not easy. I'm talking from personal experiences. I remember there were some nice apartments that I saw that I wanted to get, but for some reason I didn't qualify for the rental because I didn't have references. I didn't have a credit score. I didn't have employment. So just imagine coming to Canada 1 week in, you stay in an Airbnb. How are you able to get a rental, first of all? I know this is not even addressing the putting a cap, but this is just one of the issues. So I feel like if university can create more like accommodations for like students, it will actually ease a part of the problem, because I feel like if these students can be accommodated, if these students can be accommodated by the school, then maybe the pressure wouldn't be so much on community housing, and then they might not be considering putting a cap on the number of international students. So for me, I was just able to find a student housing, like to rent a room in a house where the landlord didn't require all of those things. He just requested for referees, and I used my brother and my friend because they were already living in Canada, so he accepted that. But for people who don't have any of this, I really don't know how that's going to work. And if you're an international student and you never had any reference or whatever, just let me know. Let's have a discussion in the comment section. How were you able to secure housing when you first arrived in Canada? Further down into this discussion, I know the minister also addressed some concerns about the immigration system with regards to study visas. The minister also talked about how some people are trying to beat the system that has already been set in place, and how they're coming up with measures to prevent that. Because there are some agents in some certain countries who are lying to students, who are promising students or a false life in Canada, saying that, you know, it's very easy for you to get your PR after school. It's very easy for you to get a job after, or like they are promising you a job when you graduate. But most of the time, none of that is true. Nobody can really promise you employment or even PR. I think according to statistics in Canada, it's only about 30% of international students who have become a permanent resident in Canada within the last 10 years. So it's, even though it's straightforward, it's still not as easy as they say. So in essence, like I always say, and like I've always preached, always be careful about agents. I mean, there are some good agents and there are also bad agents. So regardless of the type of agent you're using, always try to be involved in the process. Try to do your own research and be involved in the process. So
international student Harshal Basgowri is starting at Toronto's George Brown College in the fall, but the search for an affordable place to live isn't going well.
If I'm gonna be honest, I'm always moments away from like a mental breakdown, just from the stress of wondering if I'm gonna be homeless soon.
Now, with Canada facing an acute shortage of affordable housing, Ottawa is considering a limit on the number of international students it allows in.
There's some abuse in the system, and we have to address this in a smart way. It includes potentially looking at a cap.
There are more than 800,000 foreign students at Canadian universities and colleges, an eye-popping figure Ottawa believes has driven up the price of rent in some spots.
The micro-inflationary pressure that international students present in certain areas of the country, and notably in big cities, is real.
And that can leave renters vulnerable to scams and bad landlords.
yeah.
It's not fair for the students who come to be exploited and left without adequate housing.
This foreign student advocate is all for better homes, but he's leery of a cap. He doesn't want to see the door slam shut.
International students are not causing, the housing crisis. It is actually, the greedy people who take housing as an investment.
This professor has been tapped by the Prime Minister to help solve the housing crunch. His suggested fix: student visas tied to a place to live.
What that would do is create incentives for the colleges and universities to create on-campus housing.
Post-secondary schools say they are building housing, but they want more financial support from the federal government. Any enrollment cap wouldn't be in effect this school year, but with housing a pressing political issue, the government's determined to answer its critics. JP Tasker, CBC News.
Yeah, so that's not going to take into effect this school year, probably next year and beyond, I don't know. So let's see, like right now, I really don't know how this is going to play out. None of us do, but just reiterate on the fact that I always say be involved, guys. Just try not to fall for those immigration scams because they are out there. There are a lot of agents that are just looking for people to prey on. So be careful. And I think about 2 years ago, I made a video about fake agents in Canada. I'm going to link that video up for you guys to watch if you haven't seen that video yet. So please be sure to check that video out after this video. It's so crazy to think how they're considering putting a cap on the number of students. Like that topic, how it's also related to scams in Canada and people trying to beat the system. It's just so funny how they correlate to each other. At the end of the day, some people watching this video might not really understand. They're like, oh, go back to your country, blah, blah, blah. But if you come from those countries, you would understand. I also understand when people say, stay back and build your country. Like sometimes, for example, I'm Nigerian and sometimes Nigeria happens to you and you have no choice but to leave for greener pastures. Like it's easy for people who don't come from these kind of countries to say things like that, and sometimes it's hurtful, but it is what it is. We didn't choose where we come from at the end of the day. So let's have a conversation in the comment section. Just let me know your thoughts and concerns in the comment section. Let's have a conversation. I have nothing much to say at this point, but yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care and bye.